When Solomon had finished building the temple of the Lord and the royal palace, and had succeeded in carrying out all he had in mind to do in the temple of the Lord and in his own palace, the Lord appeared to him at night and said, I have heard your prayer and have chosen this place for my temple, for myself, as a temple for sacrifices. When I shut up the heavens so that there is no rain, or command locusts to devour the land, or send a plague among my people, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven, and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. No mention here of the world. It's if my people. And so when I send these things, it's because of my people having turned away, not the world. Now my eyes will be open and my ears attentive to the prayers offered in this place. I have chosen and consecrated this temple so that my name will be there forever. My eyes and my heart will always be there. As for you, if you walk before me faithfully as David your father did, and do all I command, and observe my decrees and laws, I will establish your royal throne as I covenanted with David your father when I said, you shall never fail to have a successor to rule over Israel. By the way, Solomon didn't continue to walk before him faithfully. We know this. Even though Solomon built the first temple of the Lord and God accepted that temple, Solomon started serving other gods. He turned away from God. Verse 19, but if you turn away and forsake the decrees and commands I've given you and go off to serve other gods and worship them, then I will uproot Israel from my land, which I have given them, and will reject this temple I have consecrated for my name. I will make it a byword and an object of ridicule among all peoples. Okay, why is he going to do that? This temple will become a heap of rubble. All who pass by will be appalled and say, why has the Lord done such a thing to this land and to this temple? So he's making an example of his people so that he is glorified, so that everyone is going to walk by and they're going to answer, because they have forsaken the Lord and the God of their ancestors who brought them out of Egypt, and have embraced other gods, worshiping and serving them. That is why he brought all this disaster on them. By the way, the United States, which was established as a place for all people to come and worship freely, we're a little bit of a mockery right now, aren't we? Little bit of an object of scorn. God making an example of us at all. And I'm not saying that only God's people are in the United States. God's people are all over this world. But right now we're going through this voting system, and there's a whole lot of propaganda coming from so-called Christians, counterfeit Christians. And what they're saying is that devils are running our country. Oh yeah, it's their fault. It's the world's fault. But the Bible I'm reading says, we are the salt of the earth. We, God's people, are the ones preserving the earth. And you know how we preserve the earth? By walking in his statutes and decrees, by obedience to him. And when we start to turn away and we start serving other gods, God starts harming the earth. He starts doing, what did he say here? When I shut up the heavens so that there's no rain. Oh, you mean drought and famine? Or command locusts to devour the land, or send a plague among my people? Oh, do you mean global warming? Do you mean COVID-19? Do you mean monkeypox, RSV, hurricanes, tornadoes, floods, fire? Are you talking about those too? Or are those just global warming? Come on. God's people who are called by his name are supposed to know better. We are not supposed to continue to go after false gods and chase them. Doctors, medicine, politicians, scientists, to fix what God has sent. They're supposed to return to him and humble themselves. They're not supposed to be saying and teaching others that God is, that our country is being ruled by devils and it's their fault. Those who don't even know him, it's their fault. We, God's people, are handed over to the spirit we have chosen. God is not concerned about the world. He is concerned about his people, those who claim to be in him, those who have been called, those who claim to see. Those are the ones that he's holding to this standard of understanding. And I don't see that going on in counterfeit Christianity. I hear heretical, ridiculous things that people are saying, that they need to get back this country, that they need to combine the country, combine the government with religion, combine church and state. Do you understand why the Antichrist is going to rule over us? Do you understand why the Antichrist is going to rise to power? Because God's people are fools who don't see. Fools who don't see. who are handed over to delusion because they do not love truth and they do not take him at his word. They don't even know truth. Why? Because they continue to follow after these pastors who are devils, who are telling them things that are in opposition to the word of God and are supposedly leading them to the Antichrist. When did God say that he wanted church and state to be combined? When did he say that? He never said that he didn't want that, but he never said that he did. Why are we saying this? Knowing what is prophesied. That is why we're going to be handed over to that. Because we don't love truth. Because we don't even know truth. Those are the devils. Those devils are coming from counterfeit Christianity, and they are leading you to the very spirit that God's people have chosen. Don't be surprised when this rises. Don't be surprised that this is the spirit we're being handed over to. You think we're so wise that we have our voting system? We're somehow going to control who's going to rule over us? God will put the spirit that we have chosen in that man, in that system. And our enemies will rule over us because that is what we have chosen. And they will rule over us until we actually return to him. I cannot believe the disgusting and ignorant propaganda that is going through counterfeit Christianity right now. Absolute blatant stupidity. God never desired for us to have a human ruler over us. That is what man chose. But we are supposed to know that we are handed over to the spirit we choose. We're supposed to know that we have one king. And if we reject that king, we'll have another one. And he is going to raise up a shepherd over the land who will not care for the lost, or seek the young, or heal the injured, or feed the healthy, but will eat the meat of the choice sheep, tearing off their hooves. Woe to the worthless shepherd who deserts the flock. May the sword strike his arm and his right eye. May his arm be completely withered, his right eye totally blinded. We need to know better. We need to know better what's going on right now. We need to know better where our power is. It is not in voting. Go ahead and vote. You want to vote? Go ahead and vote. But your heart needs to know who your king is. Your heart needs to trust in that king, not in human leaders. Your heart needs to know that when you choose the spirit of Satan, you are handed over to be ruled over by your enemies. Your heart needs to know that when God starts sending these things on a global level, the things that he told us, when I send these things, you need to return to me. On a global level, this is what's happening. We're supposed to recognize the times. We're supposed to recognize what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to recognize that this is judgment and that there's a reason why God has sent this judgment. And no one's listening. No one's listening. I cannot believe what is being preached right now. The work of your hands. Vote for this person. They're going to save you. There's your Messiah. Devils are ruling over us. And they took away this and they took away that. Not us. No personal accountability. That's Christianity today. Is that what God taught us when we were here, when he was here? Is that what he taught us throughout his word? Place your focus on others as the devil. Place your focus on the sovereignty of the devil. Come on. God taught us that we are the salt of the earth. We are supposed to be preserving the earth through righteousness. And when we don't, he calls us back in. He disciplines us. He punishes us. This is about our sin. That's why we've been handed over to our enemies. Because God can defeat our enemies in a hot second. If we return to him, he will defeat our enemies. He will restore us. He will heal us. He will heal our land. This is wickedness. Absolute entitlement and unaccountability. And it's absolutely grievous and detestable and angry-making, because these are the very people who claim to see. How arrogant does someone have to be to think that everything is somebody else's fault? Where is God in that? Where is it that God says other people get to rule over you because they have more power because they're of the devil? That is not in the Bible I'm reading. We're handed over by God, by our sovereign God, to the spirit we've chosen. We need to speak correctly, and we need to teach others what the actual truth is, because I don't think God's people are sharing what the truth is. I think they're keeping quiet. or they simply don't know. And we need to open our mouths and say this with bold, unashamed conviction. This is what the word says. The word does not say that we need to vote to get those devils out of office. The word says we need to return to God. The word says when he sends these things and when he puts us into captivity, which this is a form of captivity, when people like this are ruling over us, and chaos is happening all around, safety is removed, peace is removed, it's a form of captivity. We're supposed to understand what it means, that we've turned away, that we have begun to serve other gods, and that we are being made an object of ridicule and scorn among the nations. By the way, the other nations are nations that are not called to be holy. Those who've been waiting for God's people to fall, those who wait so that they can condemn us, so that they can point to us and say, look at these hypocrites over here. They think they're so much better. Yep, that's what's happening. That's what I see going on. Christians are being mocked in the news. And you know what? I don't see that it's not warranted. Unfortunately, I don't see that it's not warranted. And of course, I'm talking about counterfeit Christianity, which is the majority of what's going on right now. But I can't disagree with what they're saying. The only thing that I can disagree with is that they're not talking about Christians. They're talking about counterfeit Christians. But they're not even going to understand that language, are they? This is what's happening. We, God's people, are being mocked, are being made an example of. We're being scorned and ridiculed among the nations because we have not held to truth, because we have not returned to him, because we've served other gods, because we've followed worthless shepherds. Unfortunately, I don't really see this changing. I don't have much hope that this is going to change because I believe that things have already been set in motion. But what I want you to understand is that you have a responsibility for individual change. You have a responsibility to share with others because you are going to bring in the next remnant. I'm sharing with you. You're going to need to share with them. And it doesn't matter if they can't hear it. You say it anyway, and then you discern whether or not they have the Spirit of God by whether or not they can hear it. But you're planting seeds. So don't shrink from your responsibility to speak truth, to say what God has already said in his word. This is not a political issue. It is not a race issue. It is not a right versus left issue. God never said that he wanted a combination of church and state. He said he wants us to serve him, and he will appoint our rulers. You have a combination of church and state. Now you're forcing stuff on people. And the big argument here is that our country was founded on Christian values, and therefore we never had a combination of church and state. This was not being forced on anybody. Christ never forced it on anybody. This is supposed to be a choice. I'll tell you why we were blessed as a nation. We were blessed as a nation because we had returned to God, because this nation was founded on people who were escaping religious persecution, people who were escaping church and state, people who were escaping the Church of England. You want to return to that? Are we crazy? Are we crazy? God gave us a place to go and worship freely. Now we want to force that on other people and return to the devil? This is crazy. This is absolutely crazy. I'm not disgusted by what happens in the world because I expect that from the world, but I expect more from Christians. I am disgusted by what is happening in counterfeit Christianity. Absolutely sickened. And I'm doing everything I can every day to speak truth, to restore God's church, to rededicate his temple. And the majority of people could care less. Thank you to those who have a good heart for him. I'm so grateful to you because it does encourage me, but I'm disgusted by what I'm seeing in counterfeit Christianity. That anyone could claim that they see when they're doing these things. They are more dangerous than the world because they claim to see. These are the people that God rebuked when he was here. This is what he said to the Pharisees. If you didn't see, you wouldn't be guilty. But because you claim to see, you're guilty. I pray that your eyes will be open, that you will see what's going on, and that you will not fall into this political, counterfeit religious propaganda. This is not what God wants. This is not what he established. It is not what he told us to do. But it's set in motion, so recognize the times. Understand what's going on right now. Understand what's being fulfilled. Thank you for listening. God bless you, and I'll see you in the next video.